One more example of object.create. I just want to drive this point home. The more we work with it, the more we'll start to feel familiar with it, the more comfortable you're going to be, and the more at ease you're going to be with the fact that there is no right way. We can create objects in a plethora of ways. Cool. So let's look at an example. This is object.create. The first thing I want you to remember, so let's just say example 1, is you have to pass an object or null as the prototype. And we've seen that. So if we go let person equals object.create and we don't pass any arguments, we're going to get an error because a prototype may only be an object or null. We know that. We just saw an example. What's another practical example though of how we can use object.create? Practical employee example. Let's say there's, I don't know, a private equity company that has multiple companies under its ownership. And when it employs new staff, it wants its prototype to be based on wherever that employee is employed, in which company. So we need a few different prototypes. Let's say this private equity firm loves animals. So the one company they own is called Dog Factory, and the other factory they own is called Cat Factory. So let's create company 1 called Dog Factory. And remember how the prototype has to be an object or null. So let's create these prototypes in the form of an object, and let's use object literal syntax. So let's define a dog proto property. Let dog proto. Remember, object literal syntax. All we need is open and closing curly braces. That's it. We've created an object now. And let's say this proto. So an employee who works here is working for a company called the Dog Factory. And let's create company 2 called Cat Factory. Similar process. Let's create cat proto. Open, close, curly braces means we've defined an object. And let's say that company name is called the Cat Factory. And now let's say we've got an employee who works for each company. Create employee. Let's let employee 1 he works for the dog. So we want to access the dog proto. So now this employee 1 automatically has access to the Dog Factory prototype. And we know when we call him and we log him out that he'll have company property that is set to the Dog Factory. And let's give employee 1 a name of Frank. And you guessed it, there's another employee, employee 2, and this employee is part of the Cat proto. And let's give employee 2 a name of Julie. We've set up 2 employees. Now let's console log out the employee's name and who they work for. And this is where you'll see the benefits of working with object.create. Console log, and we're going to use template literal syntax here. First, we're going to go employee 1 name works for employee 1 company. And there you have it. Frank works for the Dog Factory. And if I console log the exact same thing, but I change employee 1 to employee 2, this is the cool thing. Julie works for the Cat Factory. And this is how you can work with object.create. Hope it's making sense, but let's look at the final way we can create an object.